welcome to another episode of Inside CKP. Don't worry, folks, it's not just going to be me. Hold your horses. We got to pay the bills first. This show, as in every show, is brought to you by Chris Kennedy Publishing. Please find all their wares at chriskennedypublishing.com, and including there is merchandise. So go check them out. And to support this show and Chris Kennedy, you can go to Patreon and sign up there, and you get goodies like CKP Confidential, where they give you all the super secret squirrel stuff ahead of time. And of course, in addition to their website, you can find all of their wares on Amazon. And to keep up with news, first and foremost, sign up for their newsletter on chriskennedypublishing.com. You can get free stuff. And in addition to that, you can potentially become a pre-reader. And you can also find news on their Facebook page. The Factory Floor is the fan page. There's also the 4HU fan page, the Fallen World fan page. There's all kinds of different pages on Facebook for them. And of course, if you've made it this far, you know that we have a YouTube channel and you are on it. So welcome. And without further ado, let me introduce my guest, Nic Plume. Welcome. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Hi there.
All right. So we're here for a very special occasion, and that's because Nicole, she goes by Nicole, and she is a brand new author to CKP, and her first book is coming out this Friday, June 23rd. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, June 23rd. Yes. And there it is. I love this cover. And I like the background. You can see the background behind Nicole there. It is. I love the art. I don't know who the artist is, but they did a wonderful job. While we're on that, can you describe what's going on in the book cover?
In the book cover?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Well, it's hitting the title. Trial by Inferno. So it's just a matter of it's the four main characters. Mm-hmm. Once they get into the mission, which is their first mission, everything goes wrong that can go wrong. So they're literally, instead of a trial by fire, it's trial by Inferno, and that's what this shows. Just a matter of everything goes wrong and everything blows up. And this is actually very close to a scene towards the end of the book. Where they are trying to return to their military, to the Intergal is what it's called. And the fight that is going on at that time, they're in the middle of a city trying to connect with the rescue squad, the people who are going to lift them back up to the fleet. And things don't quite go as they want them to. So, yes.
Awesome. Well,
things are going to be exploding.
It's a beautiful cover. You should be very happy with it. It looks great.
Yes.
So, especially for your first book, congratulations. I know you're excited. But you know what? Before I forget and we go too far, where can people find you online?
All right. So I have a website, nicplume.com. You can find me there. You can connect with me there. I also have my newsletter list, my mailing list on there that they can sign up for. Then they can also find me on Facebook under Nic Plume, and then on Instagram under Nic Plume Author.
Awesome. And I harp on this every week, everybody. If you want to keep up with your favorite authors, sign up for their newsletters. You get free stuff. And if you're counting on your social media to get all your news, you're going to miss something. Sign up for the newsletters. It's worth it. And so before we go too far, again, this we're doing this as a pre-launch for your book that's coming out this Friday. But the reason we're doing it a little bit early is because LibertyCon is this weekend, and
Yes.
everybody's going to be traveling there. So we wanted to make sure we got you on before that, and so thank you for being on. Um, Now, as part of the book launch, we're going to be doing a reading, which
Hmm.
towards the middle-ish end of the show, we're going to do that. But we're also going to do a giveaway. And so, what are going to be the rules for the giveaway?
Okay, so it will be a paperback copy of the first book,
Hmm.
signed by me. And the rule is that it will be given to a commenter
Hmm.
with the best comment today. So, people, if you're watching, please, first of all, write a comment so we know you're watching, because we won't know until you actually talk to us that you're there. And then talk to us, make comments. I will try to figure this out on how to, see the comments and what people are saying. And if you have questions and things like that, just shoot them to us.
And well, we've already got some people vying for the
Brooke,
freebies,
yes. Yes.
and Maurice is on. So those are the rules, folks. So if you want a chance to win, go ahead and make some comments. And we're talking funny comments, thoughtful comments, great questions, anything like that. Come with it, and we're here to have fun. So go nuts. So Nicole, welcome. You This is your first book. You
Mhm.
gotta be a little nervous. Um, what?
Yes.
How long have you been a writer? When did you know you wanted to become a writer? Tell us about that.
All right. So I had never wanted to write until this story came into my head. That was actually almost 15 years ago now, and it didn't let me go. And then I finally said, okay, fine, I'll write it down so I can read it. That was my goal. But I had no clue how to go about it because I can't even keep a journal. So, so I had no idea how to write a story. So
Mm,
I sat down and I tried to figure it out. I wrote out the scenes or whatever came to mind to start. And I mean, it was even to the point where I had to go to my teenage son and ask him, okay, how do you write a story? You do an outline. What's an outline? And he had to explain it to me. And so, over the years, I was trying to get better at it. I took classes and all that stuff. And then I got connected with a Canadian author that I actually liked his stories.
mm,
And I became his beta reader. Then he asked me to be his proofreader. Then he asked me to be his editor. And through the process, I was going, only if you talk to me about how to write a book. And then through him, he actually put that worm in my head that this could
mm,
be a book. And of course, all my friends and other people who I showed something, some of it to, or talked with them about what I was, trying to do. And they all liked it. And they go, you should be turning this into a book and actually publish it. And that actually didn't really get into my mind until the beginning of 18. So about
mhm,
5 years ago.
mhm.
That's the first time I went to 20 books to 50K in Vegas and really considered that, hey, I might be able to do this.
Awesome.
So, and then I went from there.
Now you talked about editing. Do you still do a lot of editing, or
No,
no?
I edited for this one author. I mean, yes, I did edit like 40 something books in 3 years for him. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
tell me about. He was one of those high speed write a book in a month or 5 weeks or whatever people. I
wow.
think the most he sent me to edit was like 17 books in 1 year. But
Cool.
that's, I have not edited for anybody else. I did do some proofreading for CKP for Germany
Mm-hmm.
for the translations last year, but
Mm-hmm.
I have not done that since last October either. because it just eats up a lot of time, and I'm more interested in writing than editing. So
Well, we're more interested in your writing anyway too, so that's good. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. You have a little bit of an accent. Where are you from?
yes, I am originally from Germany, and yes, English is my second language.
Well, you're
So
doing quite well.
yes.
So how long you've been in? But you've been in the States forever, right?
I've been actually, I have to say English, I guess, is my primary language,
Mm-hmm.
and German is now my second language since I've
Yeah,
spoken English more than I have spoken German.
I was
But
about to
I
say
came
that.
over in 1990.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I have spent, yes, I'm showing my age. I have spent my whole adulthood here in the US. So
Well, so now with that being said, do you think your books will be translated since you are a German speaker?
we
Awesome.
are that they, yes, they are going to Germany soon. I'm not sure exactly when.
Mm,
Um, Chris is working on the covers to get them translated, for at least the first one. I did
hmm.
just literally today do a fourth read through proofreading of the first book. I'm about halfway through translating the second book, and yes, I am doing the translations myself to
That's
go into
awesome.
Germany.
That's
But
awesome.
I'm letting CKPI do all the other languages. I'm not even going to touch those. So
Yes, yeah. Stick to what you know, right?
yes,
Uh,
exactly, exactly.
all right. Well, awesome. No, that's cool. No, I'm excited that CKP is going international, bigger and
Mhm.
better things. So let's bring it back. So how did you become a part of the CKP family? What brought you into the world here?
All right, so this is actually Todd McCaffrey's fault, I have to say.
That's a
And
good
yes, I'm
start.
talking about Anne McCaffrey's son from
Yeah.
Pern Legacy. Yes.
Hmm.
I met him in 21 in Vegas at the 20 Books show.
Hmm.
And I told him the story on how I learned fluent English
Hmm.
by reading his mother's books. And he thought that was a hilarious story. And that's actually on my author bio, that I learned English from dragons. And I will stick to that because that's just an awesome line.
Yeah.
But yes, so he literally, the whole weekend, the whole con we were there, every time he saw me, whoever he talked to, he would introduce me to them with that line. She learned English from my mother.
Hmm.
So from my mother's dragons. So yes, and through that I met Bill Webb and Kevin Steverson. And I think it was like Thursday morning, something like that. And we got talking, and I told them that I had the book, and I actually had self-published it the year before. And I mean self-published as in I'm done with the book. It is edited. It has a cover. I'm going to throw it out into the wild. And that's literally all I did. And of course, it didn't go anywhere. And then Kevin and Bill introduced me to Chris.
Hmm.
And they, Kevin pulled up my book on Amazon, and he loved the cover, he loved the blurb, and then he showed that to Chris. And then Chris came back and said, send me your book. I want to read it, and I want to see. So that's how I literally got into it. I sent him the book. He had, he did his thing. And then the next time we talked, he said, I want your book, and not just that book. I want the whole universe. I want the whole
Awesome.
series. I want everything. So I'm going, okay.
Awesome.
So
So when you started this book, was it gonna did you plan a trilogy, or was it gonna be a
no.
one and done, or?
So yes, to me, like I said in the beginning, I just wanted to write the story done. I had the story in mind, and I was just writing it. And to me, I had no clue what I was doing, so I said, "Oh, this is just one story." And then I was starting to think about it in the term of a book. So it was one book,
Hmm.
and then I heat and hard tried to figure out where to start in this story, because I have these characters and I have their whole life. So I picked a point, and then I kind of tried the outlining thing and made like bullets on index cards for scenes and events that happen. And I got that through and said, okay, no. That first 6 months is going to be a book of their life, of the story. Where I'm going to start to this part is going to be one book. So, okay, it's got to, the whole story, maybe a trilogy then. Oh, okay. So I started writing. And then I realized that no, that first actually 8 months or 9 months to that point, I was originally going with that first book, ended up now a trilogy. So it keeps, every time I sit down and I'm thinking of things, it keeps getting longer and longer. So right now I'm estimating 8 to 9 books, probably 9 to make it 3 trilogies to the end of the story. That story arc that I have, which is the main character Taylor, his story arc, thinking is going to be 8 to 9 books. But I've already had a side character that was supposed to be a throwaway character notch his way in, and it looks like he's getting his own sideline story because he's not leaving me alone either. So
awesome. Let's get to some of the comments here. You're
Michelle,
amazing.
yes.
Somebody's vying for a free book here. Hold on. Let's see. Same speed editor. Yeah, the number of books that has. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Oh, and you coach soccer? Is that?
I used to. Michelle, I knew her in when we were living in Kentucky. We lived there for 12 years while the kids were little, and I met Michelle through soccer. Our kids both played soccer, and I was a soccer coach. You know, German blood, German. Got to do soccer. So
do you get upset that we call it soccer and not football?
No, by now I've yes. I mean, it's kind of
You've
like
been
okay,
indoctrinated, yeah.
Yes, I've been, but what it irritates me more what you call football over here because I'm going. They're not even kicking the ball; they are carrying the ball.
They kick it every now and then.
Every now again, but so yes, they should have called that soccer. Just saying.
And I did want to come back to the learning English with
Yes,
what we lovingly call in this channel perm porn. Because Marisa, my wife, and she met Casey Ezel, who is another great author of CKP, through writing fan fiction for Pern. And through that relationship is how she became a writer for CKP. So Anne McCaffrey, touching the lives of everyone, doing great things for novelists, and not just through her books, not just through the words in her book.
Yes, and Marisa is actually who came up with that line that I learned in English from Dragons. So I will be forever thankful to her for that. So
yeah, and yes, Marisa, we do call it perm porn on this show. We do. Okay, so you mentioned characters. Let's talk about characters, and then as much as you want to share about the story. So who's your main or favorite character, if they're the same? Or
okay. Meanwhile, I have multiple favorite characters. However, the main character, the character that started it all, his name is Mark Taylor. At the beginning of book 1, he and his teammates are 20 years old. They're fresh out of the academy. He has 3 friends, 3 teammates that are named Tony. Actually, his full name is Anthony Patoni, but everybody calls him Tony. And then I have 2 near humans, 2 girls, who are Kadeen Aturi and Salela Kakaya. And they are human offshoots, I guess is the best word to describe them. In the universe, I call it human offshoot or near human, depending on who is using the term and what they're intending with the term, because a human offshoot is more derogatory than a near human, calling him near human. And what it is, it's this is far future where the humanity has left Earth, and Earth is not even in this universe, but they have left their home planet and spread out into the galaxy and populated other planets. So they have colonized. And as it goes with colonization, especially across the stars, it took a long, long time to get to the point where they are now, with faster than light travel and being able to hop from planet to planet. And in my mind, it happened that the early colonies, once humans settled on it, it was a different planet. Nature was different there. So over generations, the colonists adjusted. Their bodies changed to their new home. And there are multiple, and over the years and over generation, they became an offshoot of the main human species per se. Kind of like, little branches that turned off that are becoming something else, but they're still close enough. They look human. They're mostly acting human or mostly looking human. There's just some difference about them. And that is the same with these two, Salela and Kadeen. They are Din, or children of Denai is what they call themselves. And they consider their planet to be sentient. And the planet took the humans in and made them into her own image. They look human. They can act human fully, but there are differences on how they develop. And then they have abilities. They have mental abilities. They call them gifts. They're able to sense a person's emotions and surface thoughts. So that makes it very interesting in interacting. And then they have a different way of looking at sexuality and everything that has to do with that. So that's your 4 characters, or the 2 girls. And then you have Mark Taylor, who is spaceborn, meaning he was born in space. He has no home planet and grew up traveling the galaxy with his mother, kind of like what we're doing. They were nomads, and they moved every couple of months, hop from place to place, from job to job, kind of like gypsies of space. And then there's Tony. He grew up as a military brat. His parents were in the military, and he grew up within that society. And then they all met when they were 17, and they went to the Special Forces Academy and spent the last 3 years together, became the top team of their academy class, and graduated as the top team. And with that, they earned themselves the right to be assigned as a team. So they got to stay together. And the unit that they were assigned to was in the middle of preparing for a mission to Tinaree, which is the planet where this whole trilogy actually takes place on. And they arrive, and then shortly after, a few weeks after they arrive, they're going on their first mission, on their first drop. And then hell breaks loose. The Inferno starts. That's going, and just everything goes wrong.
So now I'm gonna admit I cheated, and I listened to your interview that you had on Future Books. So for those of you who haven't caught the Future Books interview on the CKP channel and anywhere you can catch podcasts, Nic is the current guest on that episode. Talk to me more about the relationship, or what you can share, the relationship between Taylor and his mom.
Oh, Taylor and his mom. All right. One very good comment that is actually made during the story, and I'm trying to remember where it even takes place in the first book or not. But anyway, the thing is, the comment is along the lines of, your mother didn't raise you, but train you. And that is what truly happened. Taylor grew up with his mom bouncing from job to job, not like somebody who is like homeless in the matter how you would understand it today and just jobbing from like one restaurant to the next. But no, she had a high end, a good job, but it was always a temporary job. And then they moved on. And they always moved on to a new planet. They didn't stay on the same planets more than a few months at a time. And then they moved on. And she always had a new job lined up, and that's just how they hopped. And the reasoning behind that was on purpose on her part, to give him the opportunity, and her, of course, to explore, to see the world. Kind of like, I mean, we're nomads, and you see a lot of family with younger kids do that. They homeschool, and they go from place to place, not planet to planet here, but from state to state to explore the country.
Sometimes it seems like another planet.
Yeah. And that's the same concept what these two did. But it's also at the same time, Taylor, and yes, he goes by the name Taylor, and actually somewhere in one of these stories is somebody asked him why he doesn't, and he's going, well, that's because the name I'm answering to. I don't answer to Mark. I answer to Taylor. That's just how I react. So everybody always calls him Taylor. Anyway, so Taylor, where was I going? Now I totally forgot. Just a minute. Taylor always, even as when he was little, he always wanted to go to the military. He always wanted to join Intergal in their fight, because there's an ongoing war that's been going on for 200 plus years right now. And Intergal are the good guys who are keeping the free galaxy free. That's their job. That's their mission. And then you have the Traverse, the bad guys, who are a military oligarchy. So they are, taking planets, and then they're ruling the planets, where Intergal just says, no. Everybody rules themselves, and we just make sure that you are able to rule yourself. So since Taylor was little, he wanted to become an Intergal trooper. So his mom, wanting him to be, to help him be the best he can be, helped him towards his goal, including the typical boyhood things of going out in the woods and Boy Scouting and things, living, camping, survival, but also self-defense, martial arts, learning how to shoot, all of these things. She knew, and she taught him what she did know, and what she didn't know, she found him teachers. So there was a very much always, he was her focus, and that's how it was. And she was an adult, and he was a child, so he also knew his place. That what she, like in the beginning of the book, there's a scene where he reflects the last time he saw her. And he mentions in there that by the time he joined Intergal, he was the most advanced cadet there was, because he had all of these combat abilities that other 16-year-olds didn't. And he learned them from his mother, but he never asked her where she got them from, because as a child, it wasn't his place. She didn't tell him, therefore, so he never really questioned things that he considered not his place, if that makes sense. And so there was a very defined parent-child role, and he didn't cross it. That's the sense that you get, that is how he was raised. He was the child, she was the adult, she took care of him, she gave him what he wanted, what he needed. And it wasn't his position to double think or question her where she got things, or even consider if they were bad, not bad, or things like that. That was their life. That's how it was. And he's very much like that. He's very much, okay, these are the rules, and those are the rules. He's very much of following, and that's in the beginning when some of the flashbacks that I bring up, it comes back down to it. He's very focused, very rule oriented, and very much, this is what I'm going for, and this is what we're working for, and there's no room for anything else. So that is, in the mother-child dynamic, I guess that's the best I can explain it so far. And the other, and here's spoiler, his mother is dead by the time this book starts.
Oh wow. Okay. Do you get
Yes.
there quickly?
Say it again.
Do you get to that fact quickly in the book?
Yes, in the very first scene, which I will not read. I will start with the second scene. So you got to read it yourself to find out. But yes, she is dead, and actually the first scene lays that out. And it also lays out their unquestioning positions. I guess you call it that, the mother-child thing, and that he always, trusted her. There was no reason for him to question her on anything. So
it reminds me of something. What? Terminator. It reminds me of like Sarah Connor and her, except he questioned everything.
yes, exactly. And I mean that's yes. Taylor's mom knew a lot of martial arts and combat. She had a lot of combat skills, but at the same time, and it hasn't fully laid out. This is, in my head. She didn't know everything, but she knew where to go or who to look for to hire somebody to give it to him.
So, but there's a mystery there. There's a mystery of how she knows it. That's awesome. I like that.
Yes. Right. Yes.
That's awesome. So back to the travel thing, like Nicole was talking. So Nicole is a full-time RVer, as are we, and so we're fellow travelers. And so you said you've been working on this book for a long time. Did your experiences as an RVer influence their early lives, or was that already a thing before you even started traveling?
Okay. It was a thing before we went full time. However, we've owned a motorhome since 2006. So the story came into my head after that, and I developed his background afterwards. So there was some influence to it. But we weren't full-time nomads at the time when I did develop it. But it kind of worked its way into it to match that what I'm seeing now as we're being, full-time nomads, and you can probably attest to that too, of going to different parks, and you do have the families that are full-time RVers with 3 or 4 or more kids that are, some of them are school age, others are just, doing it while the kids are younger, but a lot of them are, school age kids, and they're traveling the country and things like that. So it kind of fell in line. So to answer your question, I'd say there is an influence to it, though I wasn't as aware of it as I am now, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. Just some of the comments coming in. Interplanetary traveling nurse. Sure.
There you go. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. If you plan it right, it's not too expensive. Hitching rides, Let's see. Oh, she likes the name Taylor.
Oh yeah, her daughter's name.
Oh, got it. Strong female character.
Yes.
And from Martin, says you will have a short story about Taylor's mom.
Yes, I do. I do have that short story. However, the issue with that short story is that it gives a lot of spoilers. So, because I considered using it like for my newsletter, but then I realized that how much it actually gives away of Taylor's background. of things that are not coming out. Some of the things are not coming out until like book 5 or 6. And there's hints of it in there, or not just hints, but facts in there that I'm going, I don't think that's one that I can throw out yet, but I might be wrong. So I'll have to consider that. But yes, I do have a short story about his mom. And it is, yes, she is a very strong female character, even though, like I said, when book 1 starts, she's dead. So
So, is that so maybe a couple books in, we might see it published somewhere, maybe?
possibly, yes. Like I said, I'm still learning. That's why I keep calling myself a writer in progress. I'm still figuring this out. And I have drawn on your wife for that. And I'm going to bug her about it like crazy to help me sort all of these points together and figure out, like with this short story, if it gives too many pointers or not, or just falls in line with the books. Because if you read the books, I'm a very slow reader. I'm a very specific reader, meaning I read word for word, and every word has a meaning, every sentence has a meaning. So in my books, there are, I guess you call them Easter eggs, all throughout, that later on, and some of these are where I have mentioned characters, I have named characters in the beginning that don't show up until 3 or 4 books later, but they have an appearance in like book 1. It might be only a very short one, but they're there. There's some other hints and name droppings and things like that all tie in together. And so there are some aha moments where you're going, hold on, in book 3, you're going, hold on, I heard this in book 1. What happened there? And so, I'm thinking that's what the short story is like too. But in my feeling right now, it might be too heavy on all of the information, turning the Easter eggs into spoilers. But I'm not sure yet. But hopefully, you asked me to read it, I will just throw it to anybody. But the point is, it'll probably give lots of heavy spoilers.
So we're gonna let's hit a few more. So interplanetary carpool, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Good idea.
And that's what I think it was Michelle who was saying about expensive going to planet to planet. Think about it this way. 300 or 400 years ago, when the U.S. was, what's the word? When the people from Europe came over to the U.S., it was expensive, right? But nowadays, it's not that expensive anymore. It doesn't cost your house, your life, all of your savings to fly between the continents.
Yeah. And so we're talking thousands of years in the future.
Exactly. And that is how I'm thinking. That's why I'm also saying the near humans, in the beginning, space flight was really slow and really expensive. So you left, you didn't come back. And then generations later, you had this group of people who were the only people on this one planet for generations, until space flight caught up and travel was cheap enough to do the hops. And now, at the time where Taylor and his teammates are living, you have the space liners, you have the Greyhound of the galaxy that you can hop and that fly you from place to place.
Yeah. And Trisha says all the best authors know that they're writers in progress, and she's got a good point, because once you think you got it all figured out, that's when your writing starts to suck.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Last question before we have you do the reading. What other influences, whether it's the characters or the world or the individual planets, did you kind of take from to write the book, if any?
Okay. Locations.
Mm-hmm.
I have. There's a story that we might have some people watching that will call me out on this. I have locations that I have named after real locations,
Mm-hmm.
and I have locations that I have described after real locations. So I have one town in book one. Actually, it's in all three books. It's called Tuscany. And yes, it actually comes from Tuscany. And
Mm-hmm.
I was had a beach week with girlfriends, and nothing kind of good comes out of 6 girls together by themselves for a full week at the beach. Just saying. But anyway, one of our friends kept mispronouncing Tuscany as Tuscany. So I was told it needed to go into the book. So now we have a little village called Tuscany. And then I have other things like the team goes down a mountain trail about halfway through the book. And I took inspiration off that mountain trail, off some trails that I have hiked in Austria. And then the big city, Manahi, which is actually, I derived that name from where I grew up, Mannheim, in
Mm-hmm.
Germany. And I have styled the big city after I actually had pictures up of Berlin, the old tenements in Berlin. And there are tenements, I think in New York, there were tenements too, where you had these huge blocks of houses with inner courtyards where you had hundreds of people living in. And there was just one block after block in, the center blocks. You had to walk through multiple other houses to get out to the street and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's inspiration there. And then I have a village in the middle of the big city, the original village of that city, that I have based on a village that my brother used to live in northern Italy, a mountain village. So there's locations, and you read it now, you might or might not recognize the things, but that's the inspiration came from. And even in book 3, I had a picture up of a waterfall in northern Georgia to describe a setting for one of my scenes. So yes, I mean, they're real life, and my travels do end up in the books.
Awesome. That's awesome. No, that was a great answer to that. So, yeah, people are having fun in the comments. Let's see. Let's see. See. Space travel RV.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Let's see. What else we got? There are, what if there are nicer spaceships like Pinto and Caddies?
Caddies.
Yeah. You're going back a bit. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and yeah. Uh, everything good comes. I'm gonna have to
Like home at the beach.
I'm sure there's some good comes out of that. It's definitely not as bad as 6 guys getting together, because there's injuries that are going to happen at that point. But
Well,
yeah,
yes. Yeah, we have some stories. I'm telling you, we do have stories. So
mm-hmm.
there's lots of. It's a bad thing when you open the car and you have the liquor bottles lining the trunk and things like that. So yeah, yes.
See, Tuscany story at times, but be careful.
Okay.
You'll end up in a bottle of wine. You might as well finish it. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Yes. Yes. Brooke is one of the ladies that was with me at the beach. So.
All right. So it's story time.
Yes.
So I will pop off, and whenever you're done, I'll let you do the reading, and whenever you're done, just let me know you're done, and I'll come on back.
Alrighty. Okay. Let me get my iPad ready. So I'm not a very good reader to people looking at the camera. So here we go. All right. 5 minutes to drop. Taylor's eyes flick to the intercom. The pilot's voice sounded bored, as if announcing the next stop on a regular shuttle route. Having done this countless times, he might well have been. Kadeen, on the other hand, was not. Her fingers almost left marks on Taylor's arms. She relaxed almost as quickly as she had tensed, but the damage was done. It took a sharp rebuke from Unit Commander Tess, seated at the front of the troop bay, to stop the ensuing remarks from some of the veterans. Taylor was sharply reminded of how unwelcome the timing of their arrival in the unit had been. Nobody wanted to be burdened with an unproven team during a major mission, no matter how well they had performed at the academy. He had heard rumors suggesting each teammate be assigned to a different squad, a severe insult to teams with even the slightest experience. But they were chits, combat heroes in training, and as such had no status within the unit, no honor to be sullied. They would have to earn it first, and the trainer at the academy had said it took at least 5 successfully completed missions to earn the NSF unit's respect. Taylor intended to do it in 3. The instant the ready signal in the cabin activated, Taylor's hand was on the buckle of his crash webbing. He didn't release it. He didn't know why. No, he knew exactly why. His surroundings came into sharp focus as adrenaline rushed through his body. Minute details became snapshots, instantly dissected and analyzed as if his brain had hours to study them, not the moment it took his body to flood with a chemical. Something was wrong. It was a thought, a feeling, a certainty. But what? He didn't know. It didn't work that way. Just enough info to steer his next move, but not enough to explain it. He knew to trust it and follow its impulse, and right now, the last thing he wanted to do was unbuckle his crash webbing. His hesitation confused his teammates, but his instincts had proven themselves many times during training, and they followed his lead without hesitation. "You guys sleeping?" Commander Tess called from across the cabin. The rest of the squad was out of their seats and prepping to jump. "Looks like our ace cadets are nervous." Deeren, standing halfway between Tony and Tess, cheered. "The real thing's different than the Sims, huh?" The words had barely left Deeren's mouth when an explosion in the cockpit rocked the ship, buckling part of the bulkhead and tossing people and equipment around like rag dolls. Commander Tess, who stood within arm's reach of the bulkhead, was thrown across the cabin and smashed with a splattering crunch against the rear access hatch, where he hung suspended for a moment before slipping lifeless and broken to the floor grates. A gagging stench of burnt metal, plastoids, and flesh filled the cabin as the ship tilted and started to tumble. Taylor reached for his pack, but his chair's active protective system kicked in. His crash webbing tightened, pulling him deep into his seat and in the process nearly cutting off his air supply. The sudden impression of possible asphyxiation brought his attention and limbs back where they should be. As soon as his arms returned, inside the APS's safety zone, its soft shell deployed, cocooning him into his seat. Sound and light still filtered through, but details were lost in the shield's opaqueness. For that, he would need to access the base cameras via his heads-up display. His training kicked in. Arms across chest to loosen the fast capture system to a breathable setting, then check oxygen flow and HUD, and report your status. He felt the airflow against his neck and cheek. The oxygen was flowing, but his helmet, which would normally block the air from reaching his skin, had not deployed. He retracted the glove around his right index finger and touched the side of the headband wrapping around his forehead, temples, occipital bone to activate the manual switch. The helmet deployed with quiet clicks that he felt more than heard as the links locked into place. His neck and the lower half of his face stayed uncovered. His visor, which looked like oversized eye protection, polarized to combat mode. The HUD activated, but the SquatNet indicator blinked red, signaling the Squat network was offline. He switched to the unit's network, which was also offline, and then to his team's network. Kadeen, Tony, and Salela were all in the green. Hicks, the team chief, wasn't listed. What the? But Taylor didn't have time to ponder this oddity since he was busy refraining from ducking every time something impacted his seat's soft shell. It was easier said than done to stay upright and seemingly fully exposed to whatever was trying to punch through the malleable membrane less than 30 centimeters from his vital organs. As the screech of mangled metal and the increasing whistle of the wind overpowered the screams of the injured, Taylor could only guess whether the impacts were caused by objects or people. Commander Richards stood stunned as the large communication screen turned to static. As Intergal's liaison to the Tinaree Resistance Movement, or TRM, Dean had spent the last 2 years laying the groundwork for his mission. First, by contacting and organizing the planet's resistance, and then by helping to plan and coordinate its liberation from its 2-year-long Traverse occupation. His hard work had finally paid off, and the task force had been dispatched. On board the flagship, the battlecruiser Carthage, Battle Group Commander Kilran, leading the task force, had invited him to observe the mission's progress from the BCC, the Battle Coordination Center. As S.11 commander, Dean held the same rank step as Kilran, although not the same command authority. But his operational authority as mission advisor and TRM liaison should have given him automatic and unrestricted access to the BCC and not required an invitation. However, shoving one's rank or position into people's faces rarely facilitated positive work relations, though it did get the job done at times. A hush had fallen over the BCC. Not 5 minutes before, everything had been going according to plan. Now all was in shambles, and 431 of Intergal's best-trained troops were either dead or in enemy hands. The mission had begun as expected. The fleet had stayed at the edge of the solar system, while its advanced forces, composed of the 215th, 315th, and 415th Special Forces units, traveling in their specially equipped frigates, had easily made it to the planet's moon. From there, each unit's 3 commander squads had used stealth infiltrator landing craft, Silks for short, to reach the planet. The squad-sized ships were fast, highly maneuverable, and equipped with the latest stealth technology Intergal had to offer, and could easily slip past passive and active sensors and visual scans. Everything had gone well, and the ships had been past the planetary defenses and approaching their assigned halo drop zones when the proximity alarms had sounded. With only seconds to react to the sudden missile attacks, few of the pilots had been able to maneuver, and none had escaped. The missiles had hit the 9 ships almost simultaneously, and either destroyed them on impact or damaged them enough to cause them to crash. Onboard computers from only 5 of the Silks were able to send damage reports to their frigates. The mainframe of the 315th SF Unit's frigate had received its squad's reports at the same time as its sensors had registered a large number of Traverse starfighters, bombers, and other small attack craft. Comparing threat level to defenses, maneuverability, and escape vector, it had calculated the probability of escape at 3.937% and crew survival at 9.738%, warranting the commencement of emergency protocols. So, 0.263 seconds after receiving first squad's report, it had opened a communication channel with the Carthage's BCC, dumped all data in its memory banks, and proceeded to transmit ongoing battle reports. The battle had been over within minutes. The sheer number of attacking ships overwhelming the 3 frigates like ants swarming over a piece of candy dropped on their hill. The 315th had held out the longest. its last transmission reporting critical system failures in shields, hull, and life support right before its communication link to the cartridge cut off. Battle Group Commander Kilran, standing beside Dean, cursed quietly. Under normal circumstances, nobody but Dean would have heard it, but in the dead silence, everybody did. It broke the spell that had fallen over the BCC and loosened an avalanche of activity and noise as everybody jumped to the task of figuring out what happened and why. What the hell just happened? Kilran shouted over the cows. Where did these ships come from, and why didn't we see them? I want answers, and I want them 5 minutes ago. Dean stepped out of the way as Kilran charged past him, shouting orders and instructions, and made his way to the BCC's exit to work his assets. The hatch didn't open. Of course not. The ship, and the fleet, for that matter, had gone to full battle alert. Now, the question was whether Kilran had given him unilateral access as he had indicated during their last meeting. Dean waved his hand over the hatch access panel to activate the embedded ID reading sensor. If he had full authority, the motion should override the lockdown and allow him access to the panel. It stayed dark. Dean sighed. So much for working on equal footing. It seemed that having someone of equal rank, but technically outside his chain of command, run loose on his ship intimidated Kilran more than he had let on. Well, he wasn't the first and wouldn't be the last. Dean settled into the corner next to the hatch and pulled out his comm. He would have to do his job the hard way. Nothing new there either. The silk bounced, tumbled, and skidded violently before coming to a smoldering stop. The soft shell retracted, and Taylor, spitting out a glob of blood, was out of his seat before the ship had fully settled. Seeing Dean up and moving without hesitation or impairment, he turned to scan the nearly destroyed cabin. It was hardly recognizable. Loose, and even some previously tied-down equipment was mangled and scattered among buckled or collapsed bulkheads, dislodged seats, and storage bins. Blood and bodies, or parts thereof, were everywhere, some obviously dead, others possibly still alive. The air had taken on a milky consistency, a yellowish haze, that stung his eyes, scratched his throat, and thickened as it oozed to the lower parts of the wreck, making him wonder about its toxicity as he breathed. He focused on the equipment icon in the lower right corner of his HUD to deploy his helmet's full head mode and lock it into his armor to provide a self-contained environment, but the icon was grayed out. He tried the manual switch, but it didn't work either. Shit. No time to troubleshoot. He moved on. The noise finally subsided. The screaming and screeching of the crashing ship had given way to the creaking and hissing of the settling wreck and other more subtle and less distinct sounds, some possibly human-generated. Noting the locations of potential survivors, he continued searching for the familiar forms of Celela and Tony. His HUD marked both as alive, though Tony's indicator was blue, implying he was impaired. That could signify anything from being knocked out to having a broken bone or other wound. At least it wasn't tinged purple, as that denoted critical wounds or dropping vital signs. He tried to raise them on the comm, but that was offline too. Maybe there was something actively interfering with the system. Dean, who had moved away from him, spotted Tony at the same time he spotted Celela. They quickly climbed over the rubble to the debris pile where the two were buried, still strapped into their seats. Unlike Tony, Celela was conscious and had already manually retracted her seat's soft shell. They soon had enough debris cleared to allow her to slide out of the seat and crawl out of the pile. Tony, on the other hand, was not as easily freed. The teammates had to move most of the debris around him before they could reach the external access hatch of his seat's control panel. Taylor had barely opened it when he heard the rumble of an approaching vehicle. He twisted toward the only visible exit from the wreck, a jagged hole in the bulkhead that used to be the access hatch to the cockpit, and watched Celela look outside. Her tensing posture told him that chances of escape was dwindling before she signaled the arrival of a tracked Tinaree Guard troop carrier. Most likely, they were mercenaries the Traverse had hired to replace the original Tinaree Guard personnel. He turned back to work the manual controls without waiting for her report on how many disembarked. It didn't matter if it was 5 or 50. It would take only one shot into the ship's fuel cells to bring all resistance to an instantaneous and fiery end. No, if they wanted to fight and survive, they needed to escape the wreckage before they were surrounded or vaporized. But first, he had to get Tony on his feet. Done.
All right, people. That's it. And there it is. Trial by Inferno. Go check it out. It is released this Friday. You can, of course, find it on Amazon. We're going to have the link in the descriptions this episode. And, of course, you can find it on Chris Kennedy Publishing as of Friday, I think midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, one of those. Find it there. Of course, you can find it on Amazon. I'm assuming it's going to also be on your website.
Yes.
So, and so find that Friday. A couple questions before we end the show. One from the audience. There's so many comments. I got to backtrack a little bit. Michelle asked, do you think writing has become easy or hard for you?
Actually, it's gotten harder. The more I learn, the harder it gets for some odd reason.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's been more of a struggle lately. I'm trying to work through that, but I'm starting to overthink things now. Now that I'm learning some of the supposed, rules of writing, that has slowed me down, because at the beginning I had no clue. So I just threw, I literally mind vomited everything onto the page. And then I was going, okay, I need to figure out how to turn this into a story. And so I went to classes and lectures and other things. And I was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be done. I'm doing it wrong. So that, yes, that kind of, but I have to say, a lot of these early scenes, like the last scene that I just read, actually the last 2 scenes, I wrote like 10 years ago. So that is, a lot of these early scenes are done. They were really good, and I can literally just pick them up and plop them where they need to go. So that was very, very interesting. And now that I've got this block in my head that's going, you should be, I turned on the inner editor, which I didn't have back then. So yeah, it has not gotten easier, at least not for me.
And I agree with Charlie. So yes, they're more like guidelines. No,
yes,
no hard
exactly.
questions.
They are, and they are, but it's really hard for me. I overthink everything anyway. So now I'm overthinking it even worse. So, but hey, I keep telling myself they're just guidelines. Everybody just shut up. I'm doing my own thing. So hey, whatever.
And so before we go, one last question for me. So, this is your first book for CKP. Is this the only thing you have out in the world right now, as far as books go?
No, actually, I have a short story in one of Bill Webb's series, the Last Brigade Universe. I have a short story in his Foreign Shores anthology, the first one. I actually owe him a second and a third part to that short story, and hopefully this weekend I'll be talking to him and some other authors to get my mind back on that. So I have that short story out right now, but otherwise that is it. Yes.
So this is your first full-length novel.
Yes, this is my first full-length novel. I had brought it out before, so I actually have the paperback copies that I have on hand right now are still the old cover. the original version, which the new version, there's just minor changes. But yes, this is the first story, my first book out, my first story I have ever attempted to writing, and the first story I have ever published.
Well, congratulations.
So,
And
yes.
a lot of book birthday comments going on right now. So good job. Welcome to being a published author.
Birthday.
And now I know this is going to be a long series. When can we expect book two? Or do you know?
In a month, actually. The first 3 books are done.
Mm-hmm.
So they will be fast released or whatever it's called. So we have the first one coming on the 23rd, so in 2 days on Friday. Then the next one comes at the end of July. I believe it was the 27th is what Chris told me.
Mm-hmm.
I am not sure. I haven't verified that is still the date or it hasn't been moved, but it is at the end of July. And then the third one comes out. The date I had gotten was September 1st. So right around the end of August, beginning September is the third book.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh yeah.
So these 3 are coming out really quickly, and then I am working on book 4. So that'll take a little bit longer probably.
Awesome. So now we know we have this to expect from you, this series, and we're talking about 8-9 books. What else can we expect from you? Or do we have any other plans?
Okay. Yes, there is. I mentioned earlier there's a character. His name is Mason, Vando Mason. He appears at the very end of the first book. And then he was supposed to be a supporting character in book 2. And he took over like half of book 2. And he's actually become one of my favorite characters. So at the end of book 3, he's going off on his own. So I'm thinking that there will be more on him, but it would have to be an in and out of the main storyline. I mean, he's supporting the main storyline, but he's not with them. So I'm thinking that there should be at least 1 book, if not a trilogy, of his adventures as he parallels the timeline of what the main characters, Taylor and his group, are doing. He's doing his own thing. He's going on a different mission. What's going on there? And then there's at least a short story on Mason's background that I have partially written right now. I have a short story of Taylor's background of his academy time when he meets Tony, Kadeen, and Salela, partially written right now. And then I have another trilogy actually outlined in the first book, partially written, that is totally different. I'm thinking it's in the same universe, but the characters do not know each other. It is a totally different thing on a separate planet that has nothing to do with the main war or what's going on there. But I'm thinking of just leaving the same universe and kind of weaving that history back into the actual universe and then, mentioning it kind of like myths or something like that, turning it into it. But yes, so I have those that came to me a few years ago, and I ended up writing, like I said, a very rough first draft of the first book and have outlined the other 2 for it.
Very nice. Very cool. So all of you, if you want to keep up with Nicole, sign up, go to her website, sign up for her newsletter, go to chriskennedypublishing.com, sign up for their newsletter. And that way, when they have these new great books that come out, you can know about it. Because if you're waiting on social media, you're going to miss something. But
yes,
I mean,
but do sign up, follow me on social media too. I'm still fighting, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not very good at journaling. So I'm still fighting with the newsletter thing. So definitely follow me on social media too. And if you want to know something, reach out to me, either social media or the website, because I will receive the emails through the website too, and the information. So,
Okay.
so do
And
both is what I'm saying. Do both. Do
yes,
it
yes,
all.
do it all. And one thing that has become a thing that I found out about recently, if you have favorite authors, follow them and like them and leave reviews on Amazon.
Yes.
It really helps them out. So if you have authors that you want to support, that's a great way to do it.
Yes.
And so it has come time to pick a winner. Do you want me to be the bad guy, or do
Yes,
you want
because
to do it?
I literally just 5 minutes ago realized how to get into the comments, because I have not. So I'm trying to play catch up here. So my
Okay.
eyes keep going over because I haven't read all the comments. So
Okay.
you're gonna have to pick them
I'm
for me.
usually the bad guy, so don't worry about it. That it's
Yes.
okay if people are mad at me. So I'm gonna go with Michelle because she had a good question and she's been pretty prolific commenter uh, throughout the entire show. So Michelle, you are the winner
Yay!
of the giveaway.
All
Congratulations!
right, Michelle, great. I actually am connected with her through Facebook. So, Michelle, I will get your address from you, PM'd
Awesome.
or something. Right now, the book, I was talking to Chris about it today. The print book is not ready yet, and I put my order in, so it might be like a month or so before I get the book to you, Michelle, because it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks for the author copies to come in. So, but I will get it to you, and I will get your address from you.
All right. So last thing before we head out, where can people find you out in the wild?
Okay, LibertyCon this weekend in Chattanooga. We are actually lifting and shifting, is what we call our moving with the RV, to Chattanooga tomorrow. We'll
Oh,
be
and I have your
staying in our
schedule.
RV.
I have your schedule
Yes,
for that.
and then I will be at LibertyCon this weekend, so look me up. And then in July, I will be at Imaginarium in Louisville, Kentucky. It is, I want to say, the weekend of the 14th of July. I want to say that I'm going there Thursday, the 13th or 14th. So it's smack in the middle of July in Louisville, Kentucky, Imaginarium, another con. I am sitting on like 3 or 4 panels there. Then after that, the next time in person is actually FactoryCon in October in the Outer Banks. This
Awesome.
is actually, it's interesting. I've been going to DragonCon for the last 12 years, and now that my book is out with CKP, this is the first year that I'm actually not going to DragonCon, and I'm kind of bummed out. But I blame it on my husband. So, well, we're on the road. That's we made the decision last year that we would not be buying tickets for DragonCon because we didn't want to tie us to a specific location.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so yeah, that is it for the rest of this year. And then out in the wild, follow me on Facebook. And who knows? I am all over the place this year, mostly the rest of the year in the Carolinas, Kentucky, Tennessee area. And then next year, we're going to go west. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your book birthday and coming this Friday. Again, people, go to chriskennedypublishing.com. You can find it there. You can find it on Amazon. You can go to Nicole's page. You can find
Website,
it
yes.
there.
Yeah,
And
I'll have a link on my website that'll lead it to Amazon, but I don't have that link up right now because I don't have the link yet.
yeah,
I
Friday.
cannot get it until Friday. Once it's live, I'll be able to put the link up on the website. But you are able to find me on Amazon too.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure it's going to be do wonderfully, and it's going to be a great series. I really appreciate you coming on board. Before we go, a few little ads that I have. Of course, you can also find Nic uh, you did you do yeah you did the Future Books podcast. That's the
Hmm.
this
Yes.
month's edition, so you can find her there, where she talks about this. You can also hear about many of the other wonderful books coming from Chris Kennedy Publishing, and go check out some of our other podcasts, including the Feral Ladies, which Nick, maybe you'll be a guest on there someday, and we'll see you on the Feral Ladies. It's a
That would be great.
and it's mostly ladies on the show, but every now and then they'll throw in a token dude. But it's our latest episode was a week or so or a week or two ago, where the ladies have a great conversation about um, your armor, how you present yourself in public and at work and different things like that. It was a great conversation there. And then, of course, we have the CKP Last Call, where it's kind of like what it sounds like. Authors get together and they uh, have a few drinks, or they're just high on life, and they talk about, they do book pitches on ideas that they currently have, books that are already out, or books that they're currently writing, and it's a good time. They talk a lot of trash. And last but not least, if you missed it, last night we had another book launch with Trisha Wooldridge. If you missed that episode, you go check it out now and go buy her book, latest book, Shadow, Ash, and Prophecy, book 2 in the 27 Kingdoms. Go check that out. But last but not least, this Friday, go check out Trial by Inferno. You won't be disappointed. So, Nicole, thank you very much for coming
Yeah.
on. Hopefully, we will welcome back anytime. And oh, you got
Hey,
something?
yes, actually, I just realized we were talking about that short story earlier. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually on my website, I believe.
There
So
you go. Go
anybody,
check it
I
out.
think it was Michelle who was saying that she wants to read the short story. I believe I put it on my website. It's called Sky, Skye, and I have a blog on the website which I have not updated in almost 2 years. Um, but I believe it's one of the stories that's on there. So Michelle, go look, or anybody, go check it out and let me know what you think.
Awesome. And with
Yes,
that, I bet good luck at LibertyCon. Safe travels. Goodbye to everybody now and in the future.
yes,
And we will catch you next. Oh, one last thing before we go.
yep.
There is a potential for a live last call coming from LibertyCon this weekend. So if you want to hear about that, like and subscribe so you'll get
Mm-hmm.
the notification to join the channel, and you can see potentially a bunch of authors acting the fool at
Yes,
LibertyCon
that
live.
would be fun.
So check that out. And I'll say it again, please like and subscribe. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.